We're heading to Aldi supermarket and it's a face-off. This is East versus West, a West Coast IPA and an East Coast IPA just launched in Aldi. But what are they going to be like? Keep watching to find out. Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. Today we're going to Aldi supermarkets. Yeah, I must be completely mad. To try out two of their new IPAs. We've got Mystic River, which is an East Coast IPA, 5% ABV. And also we've got Silver Lake, which is a West Coast IPA. This is 5.6%. £1.79 each these were. They're in 440ml cans. What does it say? Well, the East Coast Mystic River says, Mystic River runs gold with haze for days. A combo of juicy hops and layered on a base of malt, wheat and oats, delivering a light grainy sweetness and an abundance of tropical fruit and citrus. I'm going to look at the small print, see if there's any sort of hops on here. And no, doesn't tell us what hops it is. So we're guessing on what the hops are going to be. I expect they're going to be basic sort of stuff. The West Coast one says, Silver Lake shines pale and gold. Floral hop aromas are back with a punchy pine and citrus bitter up front, but balanced by a touch of malt sweetness, delivering a satisfying dry finish. And again, no indication of the sort of hops. So let's crack them both open. And I'll show them. I should have had a better setup here, but I will pour them into my glasses and I'll show you them. I'm sure you better work out which one's the East and which one's the West. But obviously, I mean, there's lots of fear factors here. This one's the East Coast, by the way. The fear factor is one, this 5%, which is a bit low I think for an IPA. Secondly, it's Aldi. Yeah, that's another worry. And what's the third thing? Well, the third thing is I don't really like West Coast IPA, so I'll be interested to see what that's going to be like. I don't know whether it's the ABV, but I just have a feeling that the East Coast one is going to be similar to something like a Hazy Jane, or they've even got their own Hazy Jane, haven't they? There's lots of carbonation. Right, so 2 beers in the glass. Well, it's very difficult to tell the difference between the two. I have to be careful which way I put one. Obviously, this one is the East Coast. Well, I don't say obviously, but this one is the East Coast. You can see it's a bit more hazy than the West Coast one. West Coast one's got loads of bubbles. I mean, to me, that looks like a lager. This one is a little bit more sort of sedatory, not as many bubbles. Hopefully, that will mean it's a nice soft beer. Right, so let's get the aroma of these. First, the East Coast. Yeah, I mean, it smells all right. Mango, citrus, pineapple. It does smell like something like Hazy Jane. Very, very similar. Yeah, not too bad. Let's see what the West Coast one smells like. I mean, both of them have got very little in the way of head. They're washing away. They're not the best glasses, but yeah, let's see what the aroma's like, the West one. Yeah, I mean, it's what you expect from a West Coast. Orange, pine needles. Yeah, you can smell that sort of West Coast sort of bitterness up front, even in just the aroma. Right. I'm thirsty, so hopefully that will mean that I'm a little bit more receptive to the flavour of this. Let's go for the East Coast first. Cheers, everyone. It's not horrible, but it's nothing like an East Coast IPA really that you think of. It is similar to, let's go for the mouthfeel first. Very, very, I was going to say very, very wet, but of course it's wet, it's a beer. It's very, very watery, a light body. You're not getting the oomph as you'd expect from an IPA. But the carbonation is fairly soft, so that's a good thing. It's just not huge in flavour, really. Citrusy, a little bit of pineapple. That's about it. It's got so little flavour. Luckily, it's soft and light. It goes down pretty well. You could smash quite a lot of these. It's quite cheap, but you can't compare this with the likes of any of the other IPAs. And, you know, if you take the last week worth of IPAs that we've had on the channel, this is not even, it's almost like not even the same drink. It is a fruitier, less fizzy lager, really, in all of its characteristics. But it's drinkable. You know, if you go in there and you've not had craft beer, you go, oh, I'll try that, I'll give it a go. I think you'd probably go, yeah, it's all right. Yeah, it's very drinkable. It really is. It's like, it's so easy for a beer like this that's cheap. I didn't even tell you what the breweries are. Does it tell you what the breweries are? It's a Scottish brewery. Oh, it's William Bross. So I started off drinking craft beer from William Bross. They're the first sort of beers I used to drink. They used to do a grapefruit or a mango IPA, like fruity ones. And at the time I thought they were all exciting and interesting, different. Obviously my palate has developed by then and my taste for craft beer has developed. But then they're a solid Aldi sort of supermarket beer, but don't get confused with them and their beers compared with the stuff you're paying £3 or £4 for. No comparison. Right, I'm going to... you know what I've done? I've poured some of the West Coast beer into the East Coast glass. So let's stop myself and let's go for the West Coast. Cheers, everyone. Yeah, I mean, you get that little bit of bitterness. You get more of that pine needles, resin, little bit of, a little citrus, more on the sort of orange side, a little bit of grapefruit. It's inoffensive for a West Coast, which for me is probably a good thing. It's not an overly bitter, it's not an overly piney or dry. It's definitely a difference between the two, but yeah, there's not much I can say about that either. Again, it's drinkable, you know. It's oh yeah, I poured my West Coast into it. All right, I'll keep that right. And now, you know, it's drinkable. That's what I can tell you. It's drinkable. It's very light. It's similar in terms of its body to the last one. And again, even though there's a lot of carbonation, I poured it out, it's fairly soft in the carbonation. Actually, I'd almost say the body mouth feels a little bit smoother than the East Coast one. So what about if you combine East and West together, which I've just inadvertently done in this glass. So I poured, thinking that, I don't know, for some reason I think light blue would be more East Coast and red would be West Coast for some reason. So I thought that was the East Coast, topped that one up and poured it in there. But see what it's like. Yeah, that doesn't work at all. Don't mix your drinks, kids. No, don't drink. Even if it's an East and West Coast and you think, oh, if I have half of one and half the other, am I getting a mountain IPA, you know? But no, you're not. You're getting more of a West Coast flavour in this, although I'm not quite sure how much West and East are in there. I think there's probably more West Coast in there. Yeah. Some of that West Coast flavour started to come out even in that one. So let's sum up this video, okay? I'm not going to score them because I don't think they would. I tell you what, if they're going to score them, they'd be in the 60s. They're the sort of beer that is not really what I would call recommended. If you want something cheap and you just want a couple of beers and you don't want to be, and you're not near a bottle shop, you're not near online, you haven't got the access to those. You're looking at supermarket beers, your supermarket's Aldi, you're thinking I can buy 2 cans and still get a change of a £5. Then they're not too bad. But again, you know, I'd almost say that the, whatever the anti-establishment, which Hazy IPA, which is the knockoff of Hazy Jane, I think is a better beer. And you can buy that in Aldi for the same sort of price. Under £2. I mean, you can't buy anything in Sainsbury's or Tesco of any decent quality, or not even called craft beer for under £3, really. So it's even cheaper than that. But really, this is all about sort of describing whether these are any good. And I've got to admit, they could have been a lot worse than they were. They're not as bad as those Home Bargains ones that we had. Oh God, I don't know how long ago it was. I've tried to eradicate the memory from my mind. They were really terrible. as I said, they're drinkable. And I think if you're new to craft beer, I mean, let's take it. You might have come across this video because you've seen these in Aldi, done a search and found me by some weird algorithm way, and thought, I wonder what this guy has to think about them. If you're just starting on your craft beer journey, then these aren't too bad. I'd say if you're new to craft beer, you're going to probably prefer the East Coast one, that's the red can, rather than the West Coast one. It's just a bit fruitier and a bit more citrusy and less bitterness. It's a very easy to drink sort of beer. But obviously, if you want something else, then you try the both and just get an understanding. Because even though they are subtle versions of each, you know, with the East Coast, we go much cloudier, much hazier, much softer, much velvety body, and very, very tropical and East Coasty. And this is just a subtle step towards that. And the West Coast, again, you've had West Coast beers that are like orangey marmalade, really sort of bitter marmalade, really dry on the back end as well. There's characteristics in this West Coast, but it isn't quite anywhere near, like, actually it's not quite like, it's not anywhere near those sort of real big hitting double or even double or single West Coast IPAs. So summarize them. If you've got £1.79 and that's all the money you've got and you want to buy a can of craft beer, then do yourself a favour and buy the red IPA, the East Coast IPA. It's all right. It's drinkable. You know, I've had beers that are sink pours. This isn't a sink pour. It's definitely something that you could drink. But if you want to save a bit more money, you know, if you get to £3, you know, go into Sainsbury's and buy the likes of the Northern Monk or buy the likes of Polly's that's in there. Even like some of the Brew by Numbers ones that are a step up from that. And in Tesco's, again, you know, look out for Northern Monk, North Brewing, Salt Brewing, those sort of breweries. They do make better beers. But, you know, when I'm saying these are £1.79 and they're £3, that's twice as much nearly. So these are very, very cheap. But obviously, you pay your money, you get your stuff, you pay what you buy, what you pay for. You get what you pay for. I'm not quite sure what it is. Basically, if you're paying £1.79, you're not looking for a quality product. You know, you're the sort of person that drinks in Wetherspoons and maybe you drink Carling Black Label on the weekends. But if you're interested in getting into craft beer, start with a red can from Aldi. Go into then supermarkets and try the likes of Northern Monk and Polly's and North Brewing and Salt. And then from there, discover a whole new world of craft beer. It's pretty much how I started my journey. So, you know, good respect to you if you're thinking you're getting fed up with the normal sort of, you know, high street, what I'd call high street lagers, your Madries, your Stellas, your Carlings, your Fosters, all those sort of things. If you're getting tired of them, want to try something different, then this is a good starting point. But there's a lot better out there. So remember that you're the only way from this beer is up. Okay. So, hope you've enjoyed this video. If you're a first-time viewer of this video, please subscribe. We do lots of videos, lots of beer videos. You can see my cans of beer here. I've got lots of Polly's. They're my favourite brewery. They feature a fair bit on the channel. They make lots of great beers, and they're not too expensive, really. Yeah, they're £3-4, £5 even, but at the same time, you're getting a good quality product for that. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. And until the next one, as always, drink good craft beer and keep on rocking.